readings and Christmas stories from the Jesus Storybook Bible, but we are back today to continue on in our Marty Bachowski Gospel Story Bible New Testament. So welcome to Cathedral Kids. If this is your first time tuning in, thanks for being here. If you've been doing this for a while now, then thanks for coming back. So a couple things just to let you know before we get started with our story today. In a week, so a week from today, we will have another Cathedral Treehouse Sunday. And so just as a reminder, that's a really fun time of music from our worship team, games. Usually we do something really fun like a scavenger hunt, other games like that. And then there is a brief reading and lesson from the Jesus Storybook Bible. It's all on Zoom. It's a live Zoom call, so hopefully you can join in a week for that. And then another big announcement I'm really excited to let you know about is hopefully over the next several months, instead of seeing my face every Sunday for Cathedral Kids, you should be able to see some new faces who are going to be helping out with Cathedral Kids. And so stay tuned for that. Just know that I'm working on that, and over the next several months, you should be able to see some of your Cathedral Kids teachers that you probably haven't seen in a while. They'll be able to do Cathedral Kids online, just like I'm doing right now. So let's get started with our story today. So if you have this at home, this is again Marty Bachowski's Gospel Story Bible. We are in the New Testament. If you want to grab that to follow along, go ahead and hit pause on your video, and feel free to make sure that you're nice and comfortable wherever you are. Get your wiggles out, whatever you need to do. Today's lesson, it's not super long, but I know it can oftentimes be helpful if you get your wiggles out before you try to pay attention to the story. So our story today, I have a question for you. I have right here a dollar bill, and this represents money. Well, obviously it is money. And then I have right here a Bible, and this represents God. Now, let me ask you a question. Do you think that I can serve both money as my master and God as my master? What if I held up, instead of a dollar bill, what if I held up like my favorite toy or my iPad or my phone? What if I held up that and I asked you the same question? Can you serve both money or material things and God? What would the answer be? Do you think that you can serve two masters? Well, our story today is going to tell us all about that. It's going to help us see that we cannot serve two masters. We can either serve God or we can serve money or our earthly treasures. So I'm really excited to get to read our story today. So before I begin doing that, what are some of your favorite toys? Did you get maybe something for Christmas that might have become your new favorite toy? Yeah. I wish I could hear you say out loud what your favorite toy is. What is your favorite toy right now? Maybe it's a new toy, maybe it's a toy you've had for a really long time. But we all have our favorite toy, right? Now, what should you love more? Should you love your favorite toy more, or should you love God more? Should you love your favorite toy, or should you love God more? Now, it's okay to enjoy your toys. That's totally okay for you to enjoy and get excited about and look forward to playing with your toys. That's totally okay. But it's not okay if you love them more than God. So this is just an example, but say you're playing with your favorite toy and your parents ask you to put the toy away so that you can come to the dinner table. What should you do? Well, you should obey your parents, because choosing to love your toys more might mean that you're going to disobey your mom and dad. You're not going to listen, and you're going to play with your toy. But if you choose in that moment, even though it's it's hard if you choose in that moment to put your toys away and obey your parents. That is you choosing to serve God because God tells us to obey our parents. That's just one example. There's probably a lot more. So I'm really excited to read our story today. It's going to tell us even more about why we can't serve two masters, why we can't serve money and earthly treasures and God. Who do you think we should serve more? Well, let's find out once I read our story today. So it is called Treasure in Heaven, and this is on page 188. Our story today comes from the book of Matthew. Is Matthew in the Old or the New Testament? New Testament, that's right. So it comes from Matthew chapter 6, verses 19 through 34. And just a reminder, I'll read the story today. There's a small picture that I'll hold up, and then we'll ask a couple questions, and then that'll be it for our time together today. So, treasure in heaven. Hopefully there's not much of it. I'll make sure I'll hold it up really close when I'm done reading. So Jesus spoke about the kingdom of God and heavenly treasure when he taught the people. Heavenly treasure is the treasure God gives us in heaven for obeying him while we live on earth. Treasure in heaven never wears out, Jesus said. That is why you should store up treasures there. Earthly treasure doesn't last. The things we buy wear out. Rust and decay destroy them. Robbers can come and steal them if we don't lock them away. But in heaven, there is no rust or decay. And any treasure God gives us there is safe because there are no robbers in heaven. It will last forever and ever. Jesus talked a lot about treasure and money because he knew they often make us forget about God. Jesus said, "No one can serve two masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or he will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and money." Jesus knew that we worry about our lives, and instead of trusting God for help, we try to solve our problems with money. Jesus wasn't saying that money is bad, but he wanted people to trust the Lord for what they need. God owns everything. He can provide for all our needs every day. We don't need to worry. To teach people how God provides, Jesus said, "Look up at all the birds around you. They don't plant crops or harvest their own food. God provides food for them. If God does all that for the birds, shouldn't we trust God for what we need? We are much more valuable to God." Anyway, Jesus said, worrying about what you need won't add a single day to your life. It doesn't do any good. Well, Jesus looked around the hillside and he pointed to the flowers. "Look at these flowers," he said. "They don't work to buy clothing or spin thread to weave their dress. But look at how beautiful they are. They are more beautiful than even King Solomon, dressed in his finest royal robes." If God provides beauty for the flowers, don't you think he will provide what we want to wear, what we need to wear? And don't worry about what you will eat either. Your Father in heaven knows everything you need. Instead of worrying about these earthly things, Jesus said, make following God the most important thing in your life. God promises to give us all the other things we need. We might think food and clothing are our most important needs, but we have a bigger need. We all need to be forgiven for our sins. Jesus died on the cross so that we can be forgiven. He took care of our biggest need. If God was willing to give up his only son to take our sins away, we can be sure he will give us the little things that we need, like food and clothing. All right, now I want you to take a good look at this picture here. So who gives the flowers their beautiful colors? What's that? What can we learn from the way God cares for the flowers and the birds? What can we learn from the way that God cares from the flowers and the birds? You can just say the answer out loud wherever you are. Why is that so important that we know that God cares for the flowers and the birds? Well, that teaches us that if God cares about the flowers and the birds, because we know God created flowers and birds, think about how much more that God cares for you and for I. He cares for us to be fed and to be clothed, but He wants us to trust Him that He will provide those things for us. And what is one way that God provides for you? What is one way that God provides for you? You have a roof over your head? You might have said that. You might have said that He's given you a family, a sibling, a wonderful pet, food on the table, safety. Those are just a couple examples, but God does provide for you in so many different ways. And we can learn from our story today that just as God cares for the birds and the flowers, think about how much He cares for us too. A couple questions, and then we will be all finished. But from after the story that I read today, what is Jesus talking about from Matthew 6, verse 19 through 34? What was He talking about? So Jesus was encouraging His followers to focus on heaven and not on earth. So Jesus wanted His followers to focus on heaven and not earth. What did Jesus say we should not store up here on earth? Well, Jesus said we should not store up treasure on earth. And why did Jesus say we should not store up treasure on earth? So we know from the story I read that Jesus tells us to not store up treasure on earth, but why do you think that He would have said that? Well, Jesus said we should not store up treasure on earth because it does not last. It will eventually wear out, be stolen, or destroyed, right? So why does God say, where your treasure is, there your heart will be also? Well, God knows that we love the things that we value, and we value the things that we love. I'll say that one more time. So God knows that we love the things that we value, or the things that are important to us. And what's important to us, what we value, are the things that we love. So He tells us that we need to remember that where our treasure is, there our heart is also. So that is it for the questions today. Something I thought that we could do before I wrap it up is just say our core Bible truth out loud together. And our Bible truth for our story today is, where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. Can you say that with me? Where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Let's say it one more time together, as loud as you possibly can. Are you ready? Where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Okay, now let's say it as quietly as we can. Where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. And you, as you're playing outside, if you're out and about, out and walk, whenever you see flowers, the birds, remember what we learned about from our story today, that God provides for the flowers and the birds. It tells us that he clothes them. And so remember how much that he cares for you and how much he loves you and how you can trust him, because he will make sure that you have everything that you need. And so I encourage us today that we will put our hope and trust in earthly things and not that we will put our hope and trust on heavenly things and not on earthly things. Will you bow your heads and pray with me? Dear God, thank you for this story today. Thank you for sending your son Jesus to die on the cross for our sins, that we may have eternal life in heaven. Thank you for encouraging us and reminding us today that where our heart is, or where our treasure is, that is where our heart is also. And so would you help us to treasure things that are from you and treasure things that are important and obedient to you? Thank you for giving us these devotionals each week to remind us of the way that you are calling us to live our lives. And thank you that you do provide for us. Thank you that you provide us with food and with clothes. And I just thank you so much for the many blessings that you have poured upon each one of us. Thank you for each one of these boys and girls who are listening to this video right now. Would you just be with them as they have another week of school ahead of them? And I'm so thankful for our time together as Cathedral Kids. I ask this in your name. Amen. Amen, friends. Hopefully I'll get to see a lot of you live on our Zoom call for our Cathedral Treehouse